What's up guys, we're covering Icejade today. This is more of a casual deck. It will be more competitive when we get the Icejade curse and the silent needle fish or whatever that lets you recycle more, and the synchro, which you probably won't get for a while, that hasn't come to the TCG. But in its current form, it is kind of a neat little control deck, so we're going to go over it. Got a couple of wins in plat with this. I don't really think it's a diamond worthy deck, but it is a lot of fun. There are a lot of variants you can do with it. I'm doing more of a control based variant because that's what I enjoy, and let's get into it. So first we got 2 Maxi. Maxi is important because if you go second, you really want to be able to get access to your main cards, and drawing more cards is better because consistency. So 2 Maxi. 2 Ash Blossom Joyous Spring in case you're going second, or in case you just need to stop something that your opponent's going to add to their hand that might out your board. Next we have 3 Icejade and Jareen. So this is probably the most important normal summon for the Icejade deck. When it's normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Icejade spell or trap from your deck to your hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card or targets this card for an attack. Quick effect. The next time this card will be destroyed, battle or card effect this turn, it is not, and you can special summon 1 water monster from your hand or graveyard, except Icejade and Jareen, but return it to your hand during the end phase. You can only use each effect of Icejade and Jareen once per turn. So first off, this effect is good because it lets you add Cradle, which lets you add any other Icejade monster, or it lets you add the field spell, which is the other Cradle. Which is also really good for consistency, and it also lets you add Icejade Erosion, which is a decent negate. So being able to have access to pretty much anything is good, because this searching this, which lets you search any other Icejade monster, and this not being a once per turn, pretty good. Like if you really want to deck thin, you could just go Cradle, Jareen, something else. But this deck is pretty much MVP for, not deck, this monster is pretty much MVP for the deck. And the effect of when it would be destroyed, it's not destroyed, and you can special summon a water monster. That's also good because you can bring back this guy, and we'll get into why he's good during the battle phase a little bit later. And so next we're going to go ahead and get into Icejade Acti. I'm running 2 of Acti. When it's normal or special summon, you can send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard, draw 1 card. If a face-up water monster you control destroy the battle or card effect while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card, special summon 1 Icejade monster from your hand or graveyard except Acti. You can only use each effect of Acti once per turn. So most people only run 1. I'm running 2 because I like the consistency, and pitching to the graveyard isn't too big of a cost in this deck because you can special summon back from the graveyard so easily. A lot of people actually run Monster Reborn, so if you wanted to cut an Acti, you could put Monster Reborn in instead, but I found myself liking having 2, personally. Next we have Icejade Tanola. I'm running 1 Tanola. So you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, target a water monster to your graveyard, send this card from your field or graveyard. If you do special summon the water monster face up, special summon the target monster. If face up water monster you control is destroyed by battle, while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, special summon 1 Icejade monster from your hand or graveyard except Tanola rather. Actually, this might be an even better candidate to slot out for Monster Reborn because it kind of does the same thing, and it's kind of weak. And I really didn't use this guy very much in playtesting, so if you don't like the effect, you could just swap him out for Reborn instead. Next, we have Icejade Tremora. So Tremora is definitely a 3-0. This is one of the best cards in the deck. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, special summon 1 water monster from your hand. If a face-up water monster you control destroy a battle or card effect while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, special summon 1 Icejade monster from your hand or graveyard except Tremora. You can only activate each effect of Tremora once per turn. So being able to send in special is great. Being able to use its effect to banish is also great. Next we have Icejade Creation Kingfisher. You can target one water monster you control, equip this from your hand or field to it. An Icejade monster equipped this can attack on defense position. If it does, apply its defense for a damage calculation. While it's equipped to a monster, you can target one monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to the equipped monster's defense. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return that targeted monster to the hand. You can only use this effect of Kingfisher once per turn. So this is another decent card. I did see a lot of people mainly running one-ofs of this. I kind of think that it would be better as a two-of, personally, just because if you really don't like it in your hand, you could always discard it for Acti, or you could always discard it with Acti, and the effect is surprisingly decent. But that's just me. I personally think that a 2-of for this is good. Most people do run a 1-of, so if you kind of want to stick to what everyone else is doing, run the 1-of. If you feel like you're needing the effect as an out more, which I do, I'd say run the 2-of like this. Icejade Cosmo Launcher. If you have a card in the field spell zone, if a face-up card's in the field spell zone, any face-up card, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Cosmo Launcher once per turn this way. While Icejade C-Note Indian Cradles on the field, monsters your opponent control can only activate their effects the turn they are summoned. So if your opponent is summoning, like, I'm just going to say Baron to Floor, they can only use the Destruction and Negate effect on the turn that it's summoned. So this is pretty decent as kind of a floodgate, and that combined with the imperms and the Icejade Erosion basically lock your opponent out of effects. And then if a Icejade monster battles an opponent's monster, that opponent's monster loses 1,000 attack during that damage calculation only. It's another reason why, even though your monsters are small, they're pretty useful. I've actually seen some people tech Burden of the Mighty in this deck. I personally don't like that because Link monsters and XYZ monsters are immune to it. But being able to out things that have 1500 attack with Tremora, less than 1500 attack with Tremora is pretty nice. Like if your opponent summons 2400 beater and you have Tremora equipped, or not equipped, but if you have Tremora with this dude on the field with his effect active, that 2400 becomes a 1400 and Tremora can out it. So pretty decent. And then that's it for Cosmo Launcher. He's definitely the boss monster. Being able to attack and defense using Kingfisher is definitely good. It's another reason why I like to have a 2-of for the Kingfisher. Monster Reborn. Target a monster in either graveyard, special summon it. It's good. It's also decent to recycle Kingfisher if you can't recycle them with one of the other cards. Next we have 2 Pot of Extravagance. We do not use our extra deck that much, so having 2 extra really doesn't hurt us at all. We don't really add from deck to hand as much, so having the extra doesn't really hurt that badly either. Sometimes you get Ashed, but I noticed that Ash really doesn't hurt this deck as bad as I thought it would. And it's pretty decent in here. Plus you can use Debate the Ash if you really need to resolve the Cradle. Next we have 3 copies of the Cradle. 2 Called by the Grave. We really should be running the 1. Terraforming. Can't believe that wasn't in my playtest. Are there 2 R's in Terra? Yeah, there are. There are... I just like terraforming for deck thinning purposes, pretty much. You know what, actually, yeah, no, I'm still going to leave the 2 in. I'm just going to run 41 cards because I can, and because the 1 called by is really enough, honestly. Honestly, instead of the 1 called by, you could also run the 1 cross-out designator, just because you have so many targets. Like, you have the Monster Reborn if they do that, you have the Terraforming if they do that. I think that actually might be better if you're running this variant. So we're gonna go ahead and swap that out. I know, decisions. This is just stuff I personally experienced in playtesting. And I'm giving reasons for why I'm kind of doing it a little differently from other deck lists. But let's continue on. We got the 1 Monster Reborn, the 1 Terraforming, the 2 Extravs, the 3 Icejade Cradles. This isn't a once per turn, and like if I drew all 3 of these, I'd just be like, okay, that's cool. It's just add an Icejade monster from your deck to your hand with a different name from the cards you control are in the graveyard. It's not a big deal since you can banish some of the stuff in the graveyard for their effects, or manipulate your graveyard by special summoning stuff back to get the Cradle effect. But like if you're going first and you just looked at like, if you draw 3 of these somehow, you just look at your hand, it's like, oh, give me this, give me this, give me this, and then use this to get this. Yes, please. And then of course we got the 3 Icejade C-Note Endymion Cradles. When it's activated, you can add 1 Icejade monster that is banished or in your graveyard to your hand. Once per turn, if a monster is normal or special summoned, except during the damage step, you can target 1 water monster you control, along with any face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. Lose attack equal to the targeted monster's original attack. Until the end of this turn, you can only activate 1 Icejade C-Note Endymion Cradle per turn. So where's my 15 drop? So let's say I have this out, I summon this, and I'm just going to want to drop all my opponent's board by 1500. I can do that, and that's a decent effect, and that stacking with this battle effect is pretty great. You can potentially make something lose 2500 attack, so pretty strong effect, pretty good attack manipulation. Next we got the 1 Crossout Designator. You could run Called By. I prefer Crossout because if I'm running Ash and I'm running Maxi, I can get rid of those threats with the 1 Crossout anyway. And not that many people are running Monster Reborn, but I could also stop a Reborn if I needed to. I could stop Terraforming if I needed to. Like if I'm playing against Flunderies and I see the Terraforming come out, you better bet that I'm going to stop the Terraforming. You can stop the Pot of Extravagance if you really wanted to. You can stop the Imperm. There's just a lot more options with this than Called By for me. I know they're kind of different functions, but I'd prefer to run the Crossout Designator if it's up to me. But you could also run the Called By here. Next we have 2 Compulse Evacuation Devices. This card has actually been surprisingly good. I know 2009 called and they want their meta cards back, but this has been pretty decent. Being able to bounce the Flunderies instead of putting them in the banish zone is nice. Being able to out things that can't be destroyed is nice. Just in general, being able to out like big boss extra deck monsters with this has been, you guessed it, nice. And then we have the 2 Ice Barrier. So when an attack is declared, whether you declare the attack or your opponent declares an attack involving your opponent's monster, you can change that monster's attack to 0 and negate its effects, and it can't change its battle position. You can banish this card from your graveyard, send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard, then add a water monster from your graveyard to your hand. So you could potentially add the same one you sent if you really wanted to, or you could use one of your other guys to bring it back. Also, until the end of the next turn after this card effect resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except water monsters. You can only use this effect of Ice Barrier once per turn. So you get a negate, a debuff for the opponent's monster. Pretty decent card all around. Next we have the 3 Infinite Imperms. Being able to negate effects is just really good. Having Imperm to stop the summon effect on the turn it's summoned is great, because then after it's summoned, they're not going to be able to use the effect again because you got these 2 guys on board. Next we got the 1 Solemn Judgment. We really don't like getting blown out by Lightning Storm or Evenly or Feather Duster. Just name all of the cards that punish overextending and punish back row. So Solemn Judgment is pretty good. You can also run Lord of Heavily Imprisoned in here, but personally I feel like that gets a little too crowded. Next, we got the Solemn Warning, the 2 Solemn Strikes, and then the 2 Icejade Erosion. Icejade Erosion is you can target a face-up card your opponent controls, destroy an Icejade monster you control, and if you do, negate the targeted card's effects until the end of the turn. Notice this card and not monster. So if your opponent activates, let's say Regeki, you can target that Regeki, destroy your Icejade, and then negate the Regeki's effects. It's just any card while it's face-up. You can target it, you can negate it. This card is MVP. And then it even has a secondary effect. If a water monster you control leaves the field by opponent's card effect, except by being destroyed, and except during the damage step, you can add to your hand or special summon 1 Icejade monster from your deck. You can only use each effect of Icejade Erosion once per turn. So that effect is good because if they summon out YuGiOh, the big guy in Branded, and they remove your Icejade from play, you can just say, okay, I'll special summon another Icejade. And so like if they're removing this guy from play to try to get around him, you can just plop out another one. And on top of that, he's 3,000 defense. So you can just look at YuGiOh and be like, what you gonna do, boss? But that's one of the reasons why I really like this card personally for the Branded matchup and for a couple other matchups that do things like bounce cards back to your hand. But let's go ahead and get into the extra deck. Extra deck, we got the number 45 Nightmare Shark. This is for level 3s, level 3, level 3, level 5, level 5, level 5, level 9. So basically level 3, it's going to be 2 Icejade Angerines or an Icejade Angerine and an Ash Blossom. I've actually done that once. When this card special summons, you can attach a level 3 water monster from your hand or set the field as XYZ material. Once per turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, target a water monster you control. This turn, that monster can attack your opponent directly. Other monsters cannot attack. My opponent has 3,000 left. I want to attack directly for the 3k while in defense position. If I have Kingfisher attached, I can do that with Nightmare Shark. 3k can sometimes be game ending. Next we have Abyss Dweller. This is 2 level 4s. It's a little bit more easily accessible because that's pretty much what I use the Acties for. If I do make it, if it has a material that's originally water, all water monsters you control gain 500 attack. Once per turn, you can detach a material. It's a quick effect. You can do it during your opponent's turn. Your opponent cannot activate any card effects in their graveyard this turn. Sometimes Dweller is the hero we deserve. Number 37, you won't use this as much, but it's 2 level 4 water monsters. When any player's monster declares an attack, detach a material. All monsters your opponent currently controls lose 1,000 attack until the end of this turn. When destroyed by battle or card effect, it's sent to the graveyard. Target 1 other monster in your graveyard. Special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. And the next we got the Stealth Kraken. We covered this in the Boomy Lock video, so we're going to skip over it, but the cliff notes for this are all face-up monsters become water. Once per turn during the main phase, you can destroy 1 water monster your opponent controls, and they take damage equal to half the attack it had on the field. If it gets destroyed, you can summon these guys from the extra deck, equal to how many materials you had on the Stealth Kraken. And then this guy is once per turn during the main phase, destroy a water monster your opponent controls. If this card special summoned by number, so the other dude, you can special summon Stealth Kraken monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials this card had. Attach 1 water monster from your graveyard to each of those monsters as material. And then next we have Zeus. Zeus is just really decent all around. Being able to bring out Zeus is pretty good in this deck. Then we have the 2 Miss Starboys. All water monsters gain 500 attack and defense. Fire monsters lose 500 attack and defense. If it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 water monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect when you Starboy once per turn. So you can make this guy have 3,500 defense, and you can attack with it when he has the dude equipped. So pretty good effect right there. Then we have the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, the 2 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Arena the Water Charmer. Just 2 water monsters, 2 monsters including a water monster. You can target 1 water monster your opponent controls. Sorry, 1 water monster in your opponent's graveyard. I cannot speak today. special summon it to your zone this card points to. And if this link summon card is destroyed by battle or card effect while it's in its owner's possession, or owner's monster zone rather, you can add one water monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Arena, the Water Charmer Gentle once per turn. So 1500 or less, you're pretty much going to be limited to Acti, Tremora, and that's it. You can get Acti or Tremora. There are some better things you can run in the extra deck, but I didn't really have the gems for them at this point, and the deck is going to get more support as we go down the line anyway, so we're just rocking with this for now. But yeah, that's it for the Icejade deck profile. Let me know if you like it. If you've been enjoying these videos, let me know down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.